Question number 5. Solve the equation by completing the square. And we're given x squared equals 9 minus 4x. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to move the term here on the right with an x, in this case minus 4x. I want to move it from the right to the left. So let's do that by adding 4x to both sides. And if we do that, we'll go ahead and indicate what we're doing. So add 4x to both sides. That'll give us 4x, or rather x squared plus 4x equals 9. And so now what you can see is here on the left of our equation we have the terms with x's, and here on the right of the equation we have our constant. And I always like to, when completing the square, rewrite the equation one final time before actually completing the square using this little model here. So we're going to end up doing x squared plus 4x plus something equals 9 plus something. And this kind of helps me to remember exactly what it is that we're doing when completing the square. And hopefully you will recall when we complete the square, we're going to take half of the coefficient of our x term, in this case 4. So we're going to take half of 4, which is 2, and then square it. So 2 squared gives us 4, and we're going to add this value to both sides of the equal sign. Remember, whatever you do to one side of an equation, you have to do to the other. And so that's why I like using this little model, this plus blank equals 9 plus blank. It reminds me, no matter what I add to the left here, I have to remember to add it to the right. All right, so again, take half the middle term, half the term or value of the coefficient of the x. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then square it to give us 4. So we're going to add that value to both sides. And this is completing the square. Once we've done that to both sides, the left-hand side of our equal sign is now what's considered a perfect square trinomial, which means we can rewrite these three terms as x plus 2 squared equals 13. All right, so to go from the three terms to the binomial squared, all you do is take whatever variable you're working with. In this case, we're working with x, so we have x. Take the sign of the middle term here, in this case plus, so plus. And then what's half of 4? Or if this was 6, what's half of 6? Or if this was 8, what's half of 8? You take half of that middle term again, and that becomes the second term of the binomial. Wrap it in parentheses and square it. And then, of course, equals whatever the right-hand side of your equation equals. And now we have something that looks very similar to question 3 and 4, don't we? Where we have some quantity, in this case a binomial being squared, equals a constant. Well, what did we do with question 3 and 4? Well, we took the square root of both sides, didn't we? Remembering to make sure you include the plus minus when you introduce your own radical. And here on the left, when we take the square root cancels the second power here, and we're left with just whatever quantity was originally being squared. In this case, x plus 2 equals plus and minus radical 13. And if we want to get x all by itself, we can easily subtract 2 from both sides, and that'll leave us with x equals negative 2 plus and minus radical 13. And there we have our solutions. Remember, there are two. This plus and minus notation indicates that we have two solutions. We have x equals negative 2 plus radical 13, and we have negative 2 minus radical 13. So two solutions, and that makes sense since we have a quadratic. All right, number 5 in the bag. Let's take a look at question number 6. I'll see you there.